Welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I'm Danielle DeTeach, or Coach Danny D, and I help women to create luxury brands by creating processes and tightening their branding. This is where we talk about how to build your business in a way that allows you to work with ease and enjoy your life. My happy space is spending as much time as humanly possible in my pajamas, and I want to help others to find their happy space while still running profitable businesses. So get comfortable and let's dig in. Hello and welcome to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I am your host, Coach Danny D, and I am the owner of Workflow, where I help small businesses play big by getting in touch with their ideal client and creating their luxury brand. The Profits in Pajamas podcast is all about teaching business owners how to work with ease, because in society we hear a lot about needing to be on the grind and hustling, and that mentality that never gives us the balance, the rest that we need to be productive and to be happy. So that's the scope of the podcast. Today, we have a wonderful guest, Dr. Nicole. I absolutely love her. And today's topic, we're going to be talking about boundaries. Mm-hmm. And Dr. Nicole is the queen of boundaries. She is my boundaries expert. So I had to bring her on here to talk to you guys about boundaries. So this episode is going to be about using your boundaries to create bliss in your business. So I want to introduce Dr. Nicole, and I want to just give her the floor so that she can get started, because I know she has so much to share with you guys. So Dr. Nicole is a licensed psychologist. She's a university professor who is tenured, an author, and a boundaries coach. And she helps women to uncover trauma and become their best selves through healthy boundaries, healthy relationships, and living fulfilling lives. And that's just a brief summary of Dr. Nicole. There's so much more to learn about her, and I'm gonna have some more in the show notes, but we're at the end, we're going to tell you how you can get in contact with her, because you're going to want to. So, Dr. Nicole, my first question for you is, tell me about your journey as becoming a boundaries coach. Like, why did boundaries resonate with you?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for this platform and the podcast. And I just love the fact that we're sitting here in our pajamas. It's like this represents the whole thing that we're talking about right now. So as you said, I'm a licensed psychologist and a life coach. I'm specifically helping people with boundaries, helping them to transform their relationships and other areas of their life through healthy boundaries. And what made me really hone in and focus on that is that I saw it all around me, right? It's part of how I'm trained as a therapist and a psychologist, is to have a healthy boundaries that helps me to do the work with people in therapy. But what I found is that it doesn't just, it extends way beyond therapy, right? Like, boundaries are literally the key to happiness in our life, in our relationships. And I started seeing it all around me with women in particular, but people everywhere, just being in a position where they didn't know what they wanted for themselves. They didn't know what the limits were between them and other people. And they found themselves in positions where they were doing things they didn't want to do. They were saying yes to things they didn't want to say yes to, and they were miserable. And this is something that I just started seeing again and again and again. And I was like, wait a minute, we got to really, I already knew that boundaries were so vital and important, but I felt like it was important to talk about it more explicitly and help people to see where they needed to have healthier boundaries. So it became something, how they say you can't unsee some things. Mm-hmm. Like, once I just said, you know what, I want to help people with this, it became like I saw it everywhere in business, and you know that, in
Yes.
relationships, in people's careers, in their relationship with themselves, in their parenting. Like it literally was everywhere you turn. You see where people struggle with boundaries.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you on that. Like, personal life, I know I made a shift in my personal life of boundaries. So I know exactly what you're talking about, of that, say yes and be on all the things and committed to all of these things. And then you're like, wait, like, wait. And then you never have time for the things that really matter to you because
Yes.
you're committed to like all these other things and everybody else is happy but you.
Yes.
And so I've seen it in my personal life, in business. It's like, if I see one more person post in a Facebook group, my client has this budget, which is always like next to nothing. What can I do for them? Tell them what you have in that budget.
Yes.
Like
It's simple, right?
why are you letting them decide what your boundaries are? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so you're so right about how that is pervasive throughout our lives, of learning how to set those boundaries. So if you could tell, the audience one thing about boundaries that, you just wish everyone knew, what would that be?
Whew. Oh my gosh. Let me see. One thing. Okay. The one thing is you have a right to have boundaries in your life. You used a word earlier. I love that you were talking about overcommitting. We could talk about people pleasing, like all of these things. And a lot of times people really don't know that they have a right to say no. They have a right to not overcommit themselves, right? So the one thing I would want people to know is you are entitled to have boundaries around what you want for yourself and what you're willing to do. So many of us get on this, it's like that hamster thing wheel, and we just feel like, oh, next thing, next thing, next thing. And we don't really stop and pause to recognize that we don't have to do that. And we have a right to say no, or we have a right to figure out if that's even right for us. So I think that would be like if anybody can remember anything, it's like you are entitled to have to not just have them, but you are entitled to determine what the boundaries are in your life.
Oh, definitely. And I think that that's a great point. So, if it was the one thing, that is the thing, because I don't think people believe that. I don't think people see that they can have boundaries. And, when we take it to the business side of things, we've been taught for generations that the customer is always right.
Oh gosh.
And
Yes.
I'm just like, that is like the worst thing, as far as I understand the sentiment but I think it gets lost in translation. So sentiment being, you should never, be coming on attack, towards your customer. Put yourself in your customer's shoes when you're conversing with them, that type of thing.
The experience and all of that you want them to feel.
Correct. Like, and so even in situations where, it might not have been your mistake, it may have been the customer's mistake, you still have a certain professionalism of how you address them. But that being said, the rest of that is just garbage. I'm sorry. It's just absolute garbage because, if you run your business that way, you will run yourself into the ground because people don't care about your boundaries. They don't care about your situation. I've seen people in situations where they were so accommodating to a client, and then something happened. Let's say, their kid gets sick, or this happens, that happens. And that same client that you were so accommodating to because you thought you were winning over that client has no remorse for.
Yes, no regard at all for
They don't care. And so you have to protect that because no one else is going to do it for you. And sometimes it's not even that that person is being ugly. It's just that that person does not know.
Yes.
And so if we don't set a boundary, that person cannot know where the line is because they don't know what's going on with you. They may not know that you're dealing with a family, emergency on the other side of the situation. So I do think that that's very important that we know that, yes, you can set boundaries and not just in your personal relationships, but in your business relationships.
Yeah. I'm so glad you said that because even with me, I don't work with just anyone. Like I don't take on anyone as a client in my therapy practice or my coaching programs. There's a screening process because I have to have boundaries as far as who I can work with. And I feel like every business owner, you know how we talk about you need to have your standard operating procedures and you need to know what kind of business that you are and all of the financials and the foundation. That should be part of your planning as a business owner. What are your boundaries? And that's like your ideal client, but what are some no-goes that you're not going to work with somebody? And I don't think I think business owners, especially those starting out, they want to get clients. So that's where you see that scenario where, oh, well, they only have $100. How can I accommodate them? Or, well, they didn't follow all of my protocols, but I'm just going to do it for them anyway. And what you find is when you take on those kind of situations where you didn't think about your boundaries in it, my mom used to always say, no good deed goes unpunished. You think you're trying to accommodate someone and you find yourself at getting the short end of the stick. But here's the thing, like so many of us, we do that repeatedly. I love when you say like you keep seeing these posts and we build up, what do we build up? The anger, the resentment. Oh, we start having a negative, pessimistic attitude about customers and, the business. And it kind of like soils the whole thing. It doesn't.
Oh yeah.
Right.
It snowballs. It snowballs because a couple of episodes back, I did an episode on saying no is the best form of customer service.
Yes. Wow.
Because what happens is if you take on that client that is pushing all of your buttons and has, trashed all of your boundaries, which maybe they didn't because maybe you never were clear about them. But when they get you in that resentful mode and then the next client comes and that client is not that other person, they're a whole new person, but you're bringing the attitude from the previous person with you. So now you have this extra baggage of negativity. And I see that a lot too, where people are just like, they get really worked up about something. And I'm like, and I'm reading the narrative and I'm like, where did they get so worked up? Like, I'm not understanding.
It's from another story, right?
It's from a previous situation. The person is just asking a simple question. They're not in your industry. They don't know the answer to your question. But you are flashing back, you got this, PTSD from these trauma clients, and you are flashing back to that while you're dealing with this new person. And so, for me, that's why I think boundaries are so important as a business owner, because it keeps you focused on the people you love to work with. It keeps you, happy for those people. It makes sure you can give your best self to those people.
It certainly does. When you describe that scenario, it's like a relationship where you broke up and you weren't healed, and then you come into the new one and you're not trusting, and you're everything that this other person tries to do that's good, you're suspicious. And we don't want to come off like that as business owners. It is horrible for our brand. It's horrible for the customer experience. And I'm all about, the well-being of the entrepreneur and the business owner. So it's not good for us. It's not good for the business owner to be caught up in that loop. And then, you're still, so what's crazy about the scenario that you described, I love it, is that you start off bending over backwards for someone who's not your ideal client because you think you need the profits or whatever. That doesn't work out. You bring the resentment to your ideal client. That ends up interfering with your profits, and you're back at like square one again.
Right. You are creating this like, terrible loop of just unsuccess. I'm going to say that. I don't want to say failure, but unsuccess, because you are deciding to carry this stuff that's not yours to carry when you could have just said no. You could have just said no. And like, you mentioned, especially with like newer, entrepreneurs, you're trying to get that business. And so you just accept a lot because you're just trying to get that business. As somebody that's been doing this for a while, I want to make it painfully clear for you. If you're confused about it, it's going to bite you in the butt every single time.
Oh, yes. You know that. Have you?
I've been there. I've done it. Every single time it's going to bite you in the butt. I can't tell you one time that it didn't bite me in the butt, but I can tell you a bunch of times that it did. And even as you evolve and you start to set those boundaries, there are always going to be those moments where somebody, you feel a little sympathy for this, or there's always going to be those moments because, it's fluid. It's not concrete, but I'm trying to find the time that it worked out. It has always come back to bite me in the butt. Even sometimes when you lay out the boundary, but you know that this is a boundary pusher, sometimes you just have to say no. It just always, just every time it is going to come back and bite you because you had the boundary for a reason. So don't just undo it for no reason.
Don't second guess yourself about why you had it.
Right. It doesn't end well. And a lot of times in business, it ends up costing you money.
And
I can go ahead.
Oh, no, my experience is basically just like yours, where as a service provider, as a mental health professional, as a coach, and as someone that runs programs, I was taught this by my teachers. The fee is the fee. Every single time, Danielle, just like you, every single time I have backtracked or somebody said, oh, well, can you do sliding scale? Now, what I do is I donate pro bono time to organizations where they vet the people, right? I give my time to organizations where they want to help people that need, counseling or whatever. But when it comes to my business, every time that I've said, oh, okay, well, I can lower it for you, just like you, it has never worked out. People have gotten a lower fee from me and then called me and canceled because they're on vacation somewhere. And you know what that does? That will build up resentment in me. And that's what happens when you don't have boundaries. You build up resentment. Like, well, I lowered my fee. Why are they out enjoying themselves on vacation? Whereas if I just would have stuck to my fee, I wouldn't have had that resentment or that feeling of, well, I'm being cheated out of my money.
Right.
So it just does. I'm like, I can't think of one time, and maybe it wasn't immediately where it would come back to bite me, but it always comes back to bite you 100% of the time.
It does, because like you said, if it doesn't happen immediately, it may not be the day of or what have you, but down the road, now this person still wants this, discount, or this person, comes back and is, oh, well, I don't know, I didn't all the way like, it's like, you know what? I knew from the jump, your gut tells you these things if you listen, but we have been taught so many things counter to what's intuitive to us that we don't listen. But your gut tells you going in, this not going to It's not gonna work out. And then you try to make it work anyway. And the boundaries are so important. Like, I feel like, boundaries have really been a big part of changing the scope of my business. And it has made it so that I don't, I don't have those moments, like here and there maybe, but I don't have those, like, I'm just griping about, business, moments, because I'm working with people that I enjoy. And when I get a red flag, I listen to the red flag now. I say, this don't fit. This don't feel right. This doesn't feel like it's, going to end well. And I don't mind. You have to get to the point where your focus is not solely on the money, because that will get you into some bad situations, because you're saying yes, yes, yes to make the money. But again, it will cost you. I've had so many situations where I said yes when I should have said no. And then I had to go back, and fix a mistake or do this or do that. And that ended up costing me more money. So it wasn't even worth it, because I didn't even profit off of it. And, I'm just going to throw this out here, and it may step on toes. 9 times out of 10, your boundaries with your pricing is a problem as well.
Oh, speak on it, because we don't know our worth.
We don't know our worth. And we're just we just want to be chosen so badly that we're just like, oh, okay, I'll take anything. You have to change that. You have to be charging your worth, and you have to put yourself in a position that you can give that quality that goes with that fee. But as long as you are not charging your worth, you're too busy to get better.
Yes.
You're too busy to give quality service to your customer. And so that's why it's so important to know when to say no. Yeah. Some things just don't make sense. Like, I can't do, the Kardashians' kids' birthday party for you for $100. I just can't.
And I'm sure you get those requests, right?
Oh, I mean, I don't anymore, because, they know now. I work very hard on my branding and make sure that I'm hitting the people I'm supposed to hit every once in a while. But when I do, I don't, when I was first starting out, like you said, I might have been sitting there looking at it like, well, maybe this, that. And when I see that now, I'm just like, yeah, no. Like, no. The answer is just no. It's no way. Like, materials alone is going to cost you at least about $500, $600. So how can I produce this finished look for $100?
And what people don't realize is there's an energy cost, no matter what your business is, whether you're interacting with people, like, there's always an energy cost. So you have to be boundaries is about also calculating your energy supply. How much do you have to give as far as your energy into a job or whatever it is, one of the customers you're working with? And we all know that people that are entitled take a lot of our energy. Ooh. So, and I always ask myself, is this energy cost worth it to me? Maybe, maybe the money, somebody's offering something, but it's not just the dollars and cents, it's the energy cost that it's going to cost me. Is that worth the money that I'm going to get? And I think one of the things about boundaries is it's really about trusting our intuition. As you said, there will be red flags. And when you find yourself saying yes, despite the red flags, you have totally disregarded not only your boundaries, but your intuition and what your gut is telling you. So that's why I say boundaries are just a natural part of life, because it's things that our gut and our intuition tell us. But then we've been socialized not to listen. And we've been socialized to think that money is the only thing in the equation. We don't think about the energy cost, because you know me, Danielle, my peace of mind is the most valuable thing. I you can't pay me to rob me of my peace of mind. It's
No,
worth so much to me.
And we share that, you know, because
Uh-huh.
I'm the same way. I'm just like, yeah, that sounds stressful. Like, and I mean, that's not what I'm looking for in life at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's, you know, of course, there's that good stress in the sense of like, you know, you're stretching yourself and that type
Mm-hmm.
of thing. But then there's that just unnecessary, like, I'm just like, this seemed complicated for no reason, like absolutely no reason. Like, I don't understand what's happening. I don't know why I don't know why we're going like this, but it's not
Mm-hmm.
working for me. And when I feel that energy, I pull back because I am, you know, a solution driven person. And so to me, that feels like chaos. And I don't operate well in chaos. So
Mm-hmm.
I have to just say no. And I mean, there've been times where there've been some like, you know, big, you know, quote unquote opportunities that I've passed on because it wasn't in alignment.
Yeah.
And I had no qualms about it. You know, at a different point in my life, I might have felt a different way, but I had no qualms about it because I knew that it was going to be more stress than it was worth. And
Mm-hmm.
once it was kind of funny, this one instance that I'm thinking about, I got offered to do this photo shoot for this organization. I'm not going to name the organization or anything like that, but they wanted to do this really cool like balloon display for this photo shoot. Well, I'm looking at the images and I can see that this is Photoshop. So you basically are wanting me to create something that doesn't exist in reality. And it's short turnaround to do it. And y'all don't have all of the information. And so part of me was like, oh, well, you know, it's a big opportunity. And then I sat with it and I was just like, no.
Yeah.
And so then I replied back and I said, I'm sorry, I wouldn't be able to accommodate this. And another one of my balloon friends here was also contacted about it, and she kind of pursued it with them a little bit, and she was just like, oh no, they weren't even trying to pay for what all of this would entail. Like she took the time to like price it out and all
Itemize
like
it.
that. And they were just like, oh no, that's well with outside of our budget. And so it's funny sometimes when you can see it play out, you know.
Yeah, from the outside, right?
From the outside, because, you know, I kind of like, you know, even after I said no, I kind of like in the back of my mind was like, well, you know, maybe I should have, was I just intimidated? And then I was just like, no, it wasn't an intimidation thing. It really just didn't make sense. It was just a lot of, you know, it was too much confusion for it to actually happen. Yeah. And I felt good in that no. And I have to feel good in my no's. And we all have to learn how to feel good in those no's because it protects your peace of mind. Because I could have moved forward with that, been stressed out for days, trying to get this right and all of this. And then what if I can't produce the unproducible? Right. Yep. And I went through all of this trouble, and what if they're not happy at the end and then they want their money back? So now I've gone through all of this stress.
And you might not even get the bag at the end of the day. I might not even
get the bag at the end of the day. Sometimes it's better to say the no and stand in that, because you also have to think about the reputation of your business. Because your business is more than one job, one customer, one person. Is much more than that. And when you don't set those boundaries properly, now you have all of these walking angry people out there that are not satisfied with you, and they talk more than satisfied customers, unfortunately.
It's funny, right? When you go on Yelp, you will see more of the negative.
Yeah,
people don't go to talk about yes, they talk. Even if they were wrong.
Leave out the parts that were about them.
Yes. Their part in it.
Right. They leave out the part where they didn't pay on time, but they did this, and they leave all those parts out. So think about that as well. Like, you know, just like you said, it's a relationship. you're entering into a relationship with somebody who you already know is toxic. Because, you know, a lot of times just their demeanor when you meet them, they have that energy that you're like, what's wrong? Like, what in the world?
And you're like, well, you try to, as you said, without boundaries, you try to talk yourself into it. And another thing I noticed is people to have boundaries means you get in touch with yourself. So sometimes it might not even be the other customer or the prospect. It could be that you're at capacity. And that's the part when you said earlier, when we talk about overcommitting.
Right.
It might not even be the other person. It might be where you are in your business or things that are going on in your life. Like I know in my private practice, I'm full with therapy clients. And so I had to look at other ways to serve people. I have group coaching programs, but even with those, there's a certain cap. Right. Because I don't have the capacity to just take on everybody, even if they would have been a lovely client. So I think a lot of times we overcommit and we say yes because we're not realistic about what is our own capacity. Like we think we could just run ourselves into the ground.
Yes.
And I said, sometimes the smart people, we're our worst enemy. We think we can do anything without rest, without downtime, without saying no, without like really pouring back into ourselves. And a person without boundaries is constantly overcommitting, underestimating what they need back. And it ends up being a really a hot, unbalanced mess.
Yes.
All because you couldn't really see boundaries. I always tell people it's like a limitation. So you have to know your own limitations too, right? Or if you're growing that much, stop being cheap. Hire somebody to help you.
That part.
so you can stop trying to say yes to every job because, because your reputation, in a good way, your reputation will grow and you're trying to say yes to everything when either you don't have the capacity or you don't have the team to help you with it.
Right.
So it's just so many factors into it that nobody really talks about as far as in business and the way you have to plan your boundaries, how you're going to balance your life and how you're going to allow others to help you, right? How many of us want to be a one man or one woman show and, we just burn out. We literally burn out.
No, it's definitely the case. Like, I'm a solopreneur, but I got help.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But I got help. I have help, as far as jobs, but I also, that's the importance of, me and Nicole are both coaches. That's the importance of having coaches. That's the importance of, hiring the accountant and hiring the bookkeeper and,
the virtual assistant.
Why all that stuff is important because you cannot do it alone. Like you absolutely can't do it alone. You're going to burn out. But also, I love what you said about the limits because we always want to think about being limitless, but you got limits. You got to go to sleep sometime.
You are human.
You have to go to sleep sometime. And honestly, that's when mistakes are made. Mistakes are made when you're working tired. My grandmother used to always say, like if she was in the kitchen cooking, she loved to cook. And if she dropped something twice, she'd say, oh Lord, I got to go lay down because that means I'm tired. And so that's like a running joke in the family now. Like if somebody is like, dropping stuff or like, just kind of fumbling over stuff, we'll say, oh, go lay down because you're tired.
Yes.
But that's what happens. You make mistakes when you're tired. And so it's important that you get rest and that you're recharging so that you are really being the full best you. Because you don't want your clients getting that, halfway sort of there, kind of maybe you. Like that person is not putting out the quality work. That person is not able to, really give everyone what they need. And like you said about like the coaching programs, knowing who, how many to put in that program. Like, I do the same thing as far as capping it because even though it's group coaching, I'm like, how many people can I realistically, be able to touch?
Yeah, impact like that.
You know what I'm saying? Because there's some people that are going to come in the room and they're going to be loud and get all the attention. And there's going to be some people that's going to come in the room and they're going to go sit in the back.
And you have to be able to observe, right?
You have to be able to observe that. You have to be able to pull that person out the bag. And you have to be able to tell this other person, can you hush for a moment? Just for a little moment.
Yeah.
So you hear what this other person has to say. You have to be able to have that balance. But if you are overcommitting again, you don't have, you can't keep up with all of that. You can't keep track of it. And as we're talking, I just remember my birthday, the year of when the pandemic started. So my birthday's in January. So this was before the pandemic started. And I was doing a photo shoot that morning and I was going out with my girlfriends that evening. So I, was doing hair, makeup, all that morning, went do the photo shoot. And then I'm going out with my friends. And I had all this stuff planned, right? That I was going to do. I was going to do some balloons for the photo shoot and this and that. And as it got closer to time, it just was not like there was more things than time. And I was just like, well, this photo shoot really was for the coaching business. So I'm not going to worry about the balloons. I just nixed that. And then for my party, I'm like, I can't not have balloons as a balloon artist at my party. But I had a garland that I had done for a client that I had to do the breakdown. So I still had it in the house. And it wasn't like my favorite colors or anything, but I found like a pattern that had some of those colors in it. And I just added, because I love blue. So I just added blue into the design. And so as we're leaving from the photo shoot, my husband's, driving me home because I can't see with those lashes on. So that's
we talked.
It's a whole nother conversation. But so he's driving me home from the photo shoot and I'm switching gears to get ready for the party. And I'm glad that he stopped me and said this in this moment because I didn't even think about it. He said, I don't know if you noticed, but you pivoted without being stressed out about it. When you realized that it couldn't happen, you just changed it. And I sat in that because the old me would have pushed myself to the limits to make it all happen. But the me in that moment was just like, it's going to happen how it happens. And I made up these requirements. So why can't I unmake them up?
Yes.
And why can't I? Because then I would have been at my own party tired. And I wouldn't have had fun at my photo shoot because I'm still thinking about all these different moving parts. And I'm so glad that he pointed that out in that moment because that was a life shift moment for me.
You saw that win.
Because I was an overcommitter. And I was the person that if there was space on the calendar, I was going to find something to put in that space. Like some way, somehow I was going to find something to fill in that space. And now when I look at my calendar, I'm like, man, there's not enough white spots on here. Like now
you're like, wait, can I erase this? How can I get that off?
Now I'm trying to peel stuff off. And so that's why I love your platform, Dr. Nicole, because I just really, really feel like people need to know what the other side of that looks like and what it feels like to be excited to just see blank space on your calendar.
Yes. And it's a huge mindset shift that it's a big shift. Sometimes we will fight against it ourselves. Sometimes people in our lives will fight against it because they'll give little signifiers. Oh, okay. It's 12 o'clock. You still got your pajamas on. Okay. Oh, you're not doing nothing, right? So they give those clues that they're not comfortable with it. And I always say, speaking of we have to model it ourselves. Like with with my private practice, I only see people on certain days. And unless it's an emergency, I don't put people in on other days. It doesn't work for me, right? Because I have different things going on in my life. So I have it set up in a way that really works for me. And sometimes clients might be like, well, if they have to reschedule, if they can reschedule on one of those 2 days, fine. If not, they'll have to wait till the next week. But a lot of times people will question that. And I love when they question me because it gives me an opportunity, because a lot of people don't have good boundaries and self-care for themselves. So
Yes.
I always say the way I work with you, what's so important for me to be able to do that is me being well rested, me feeling good, being balanced, versus would you want to see your therapist or your coach that's sleep deprived,
Right.
irritable, and just completely a mess? No. So I said, in order for me to do that, I have had to set up my personal and my business life in a way that gives me energy versus drains me. I refuse to live a lifestyle that on purpose drains me. Not to say that there aren't stressful periods in life. Like you said, I just went through tenure. It's a lot. It's a lot to it, right? But I'm not somebody that's going to thrive out of a chaotic business or personal life. And so when you start setting, like, that was the core boundary that I set in my life. And from there, everybody had to fall into place. And like you said, your husband, a lot of times, you have to listen to your partner, because a lot of times my husband will be like, you need to go lay down. It'll be in the middle of the day. Go lay down and rest. And it's like they can see what you need
Right.
sometimes when you don't see it. Go rest, stop, put the computer down, and take a nap. Even if you don't sleep, make sure you just close your eyes or whatever. And in that way, I'm able to translate that to my kids. They know. I said after 8:30, I'm off duty. Not to say you can't talk to me or we can't have fun, but I'm not getting anybody any ice cream. I'm not brushing anybody's teeth. I'm not doing that stuff, because that has to be done before 8:30 so I can have my downtime. So it just really, like, once you get into a role with it, Danielle, you just the funny thing is, you could do it with a smile on your face. I'm not running around telling people, no, 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 no. It's just
No, you're just explaining to them that this is the boundary, and you're not using that word, but you're just saying, hey, like I had a client this morning. She sent me something yesterday, and I have auto replies, and so people don't always realize it's an auto reply, so they think we're having a conversation. But I am. If y'all don't know this about me, y'all will learn it really quickly. I am so in love with Easter, so I was not communicating with anybody on yesterday, but that's how she felt because of whatever
the auto response.
Yeah, because of the auto response, and so she reached out this morning, and Monday is my off day, right? So she reached out and she said, she was trying to get a phone consultation or whatever. And I don't do random phone calls. I know that that's sounds weird to people in a business, but there's a reason for it. There's a reason why I do it that way. That's my boundary.
Yeah.
And the reason is, one, I'm running two businesses, so I could be doing something for either one at any given time. But two, I want to give you my undivided attention when I'm talking to you about your event. And I want to make sure that we're not just, picking this up at some random time, right? Because my mind is wherever I was already when the phone rang.
Yeah.
So I just sent her an email because I did want to touch base, because I know she had reached out a couple of times. And so I just said, hey, we're closed on Sundays and Mondays, but I have a phone consultation appointment available on Friday at either this time or this time. Let me know which one works for you, and we can get it on the calendar. And she's like, great. The morning time works best for me. I didn't have to yell. I didn't have to say, why are you calling me on Monday?
I know.
You don't
You'd have
have
to go on Facebook and vent about it.
None of that. None of it. You can just clearly say, we have to learn how to communicate. You can just clearly say, hey, this is what's happening. And then that person, then you're leaving it to them to choose how they then, respond back. But it doesn't have to be a painful experience.
Yes. I always tell people boundaries is just knowing the limits of what you're willing to accept and being able to communicate that to people. It's simple, a 1-2 step, as they say.
Right.
And it doesn't have to, but I say by the time you tell me these stories too about the people going in the groups and venting, by the time you're doing that, you need a complete reset. That's not boundaries. Yeah. That's not boundaries at all. That's burnout.
No, when you got to make an announcement about the fact that you got boundaries, sis, you probably don't have boundaries.
Pull it back. Yeah,
you probably don't have boundaries. Like you just mad right now. Like that's not the same thing. Like boundaries really don't. You're not bitter with boundaries. You know what I'm saying? Because you're at ease. It gives you ease. Now I know you have to go, so I want to wrap up real quick. So I always end with these 3 questions. So the first one is, what are your favorite pair of pajamas?
Oh my gosh. So actually I got a few pairs of these. I got them at Macy's on sale. I forgot the brand. It's this really soft cotton. I want to say Jasper. Okay. And of course I have my little robe on. But it's the the shirt and the bottoms, but it is so soft. I don't know if you can see, this is my little tiger print one. Yeah. And the way the pants are. So I have some that are like the nice loungy silky ones, but these are great to sleep in as well, because some of them I get all caught up and wrapped up in. These are so comfortable and well made, and the cotton is so soft. And I got a few pairs at Macy's. I caught a nice sale. I think the brand is Jasper. So if you get to Macy's, they might have them at other stores, but I love these pajamas.
And I love a soft pajama. That's my thing. I'm like, I don't want to feel like I'm laying in paper or
or slipping and sliding off the bed.
I'm going to sleep. I love a soft pajama. Okay, so my time freedom allows me to.
Wow. Allows me to just be. It allows me to dream and create and to envision, like to be that visionary that I am naturally. So it breaks off all the chains of that, because I'm somebody that could literally sit here and just daydream and be creative and figure out like the next thing that I'm going to put out to impact people. And so that's what my time freedom gives me. It just lets me be in that zone, be in my zone of genius.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay, so what is the best advice that you could give someone that's seeking the profits in pajamas lifestyle?
Well, first of all, I would say get your mindset right so you know you deserve the profits in pajamas lifestyle. It's nothing wrong with it. It's actually something that probably our mothers and grandmothers and great grandmothers, if they're looking at us, they're smiling to say, this is what I wanted for them, to not be stressed out in all of this chaos. So know that you deserve it and start working on yourself, your inner self. Start figuring out whether you need better boundaries, whether you need what kind of people and support you need around you to create that lifestyle. So you really have to know that before you even do anything when it comes to like the business part, you got to start with the self part. Once you get the self part together, you'll be able to learn the business part, but you have to learn yourself first. And get those boundaries.
Yes, I love that, because I think a lot of times we think we can just jump in and do it, but you really do have to get that self work done, because Otherwise, you just carrying BS around from one spot to the next spot to
Yes.
the next spot. And so you definitely, definitely important to get that self-work done.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so as we close out, I know that you have something coming up. So can you tell the audience about what you have going on?
Yes. So, as Danielle said, I'm the boundaries queen. I'll say I'm the boundaries and burnout queen. So, I run a masterclass for women. Others have come, but I really focus on, I understand women who wear many hats and who are on the brink of burnout in their personal life or in their career. And I have a masterclass that's called Banish Burnout and Build Bliss. And it's really about taking that journey to get from being all of that stuff, the overwhelmed, the stretched thin, on autopilot, resentful, not feeling like you're living your best life, even though it might look like it, right? So I help women to get from that place of burnout to a place of balance and bliss and healthy boundaries in their life. And so my next workshop or masterclass is coming up. It's free. So you can register at www.theblissworkshop.com. You register for free, but I also have a VIP mixer. So if you want to have a little time to really get your questions answered and dig a little deeper with me afterwards, you can sign up for the VIP. This masterclass, I love running this masterclass, Danielle, because I always get feedback during the class and also afterwards about how women just had so many aha moments, so many mindset shifts, but also the tools and strategies that they need to get started on that journey from leaving the burnout behind and going into the bliss. And you know, I am such a fan of how does it work? How do we do it, right? Because a lot of times we'll talk the talk, we talk about self-care, we talk about all these things, but then when I really talk to so many women, they're not doing it. They don't know where to start, or they get derailed. So this is what I really, really hone in on in my masterclass, Banish Burnout and Build Bliss. You can register at theblissworkshop.com. And I would love, love, love to see you there. I would love it. It's going to be amazing.
I can vouch for it. I have attended the workshop and it is amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Dr. Nicole really does get into what it looks like and what it could look like. And so if you are feeling any amount of, you know, burnout or tired or whatever, however you want to phrase it, you need to be in that room.
Yeah.
You need to be
and you want to get in, even if you're not, we always wait till we're already at the point where it's a crisis. If you feel like, you know what, I know I could be at a higher level. I could be in more balance, in more bliss, and more optimal way of being in my life and my business. You want to come to this masterclass. You are going to love it.
You will. I promise you. I promise you. I don't recommend things that I don't feel strongly about. I promise you, you will enjoy it. You will have aha moments and you will be like, oh my, I didn't even realize this, you know. So I want y'all to be in that room. I want to thank you, Dr. Nicole, for coming on. Again, I'm Coach Danny D, and my business is Your Workflow. I help small business owners to figure out what it is that you want, you know, because a lot of times what happens is we go into business and we just follow the model of the crowd, but we don't know what exactly we want and how do we set those boundaries that Nicole is talking about in our business. How do we set up a business that is in alignment with the life that we want? So I am having a workshop. It's going to be on we're in April now, right? It's going to be April 27th. Time is so fluid to me right now. It's going to be on April 27th. And it is 3 secrets to building a luxury brand. So if you're looking to take your creative business to the next level, to get in touch with clients who are clients that can afford what you're selling, clients who are, clients you enjoy. That's, we talked a lot about just having that bliss, clients that you truly enjoy working with. If you're looking to get there in your business, you need to be at this workshop. You can go and register at luxurybrandworkshop.com. And I'm going to have all of this information in the episode notes. So everybody who is interested in either workshop, you can go to the episode notes and get that information. And I also have information for how you can follow myself or Dr. Nicole. So I want to thank you guys for being here, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the Profits in Pajamas podcast. I hope you got some great tips to start working with ease. Want to stay connected? Follow me at Your Workflow on Instagram. For more information about building your luxury brand, register for my upcoming luxury brand workshop at CoachDannyD.com.